you guys coming in, and I don't think it was a lack of focus coming in, but just to have it in like this?
Well, number one, give credit to SMU. I mean, you never want to shortchange somebody's efforts and how they prepared, and they're playing great football. And we talked about that all week. We were well aware as a staff and players, and in the first half we didn't play well. We weren't moving the ball well enough consistently on offense. That changed in the second half. We started having more explosives and started moving the ball better, but just didn't convert on enough third downs. Put our defense out there. I believe they had 52 plays in the first half, and you give somebody 52 swings, they're going to make some plays. I was proud of the way our guys fought back from halftime, bringing it back to a score type game. But at the end of the night, this is just what I told them in the locker room. I didn't get you ready as a head coach. We didn't get you ready as a staff, and then we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror as players and how do we prepare ourselves to get ready for Temple. Everything is still ahead of us. We're still the same football team we were the last 5 weeks when we won games, but we've got to refocus and get ready for a great Temple team.
This offense, Major, you had eight pass attempts in the first half. Is that what they were giving you, or something wrong with
Eric? Yeah, it was very similar to what we'd seen from Tulsa in terms of playing three guys back there, and giving run looks, and we didn't run the ball well enough. Whether it was, there's a multitude of things in terms of running the ball, whether it's backs vision, guys slipping off blocks, but didn't run the ball well enough, and like I said, sustained drives in the first half. So we've got to go back there as a staff and look at it and understand that people are probably going to do that from here on out.
Were you surprised that SMU was able to run the ball as effectively as they did throughout the night? Because they've really been struggling with their running game over the last 3 or 4 games.
Well, there were some times where they ran it real well, and there were some times where we did a nice job of, I think there were 5 or 6 stops there in the second half. So, there were times where we played well enough, but obviously not well enough to win the game.
When you did go with running, Major, and
I'm sorry, what's first?
I said when you did go with the run, the run instead of the pass, was there ever a point where, if something's not working, you try to, do you go back to it? It didn't seem like there was just a lot of opportunity to get the passing game going, even if you wanted to, or did y'all just not?
Well, there comes a mix, and from the standpoint of when you're dropping 8 guys into coverage, they're inviting you to run the football, and they're basically saying, let your offensive line and backs beat us, and we've got to be able to run the football in those situations. And there were some times where we did, but again, not consistently enough to put us in situations on third down that were convertible.
I heard you out there just briefly. You talking about De'Aaron. He's been so clutch for you this year. Off night. How would you describe just him in terms? It looked like some of his throws weren't what we've usually seen. Some were off, look a little shaky. Just chalk it up to an off night.
Well, the night he had, or the day he had last week is one for the record books. That's not a typical performance week in and week out. But he has played at such a high level. Still have the same amount of confidence. Still the same leader. He's still the same competitive guy. But when you're not having a 400-yard passing, 130-yard rushing game, you have to have those around you play well. And we didn't play well enough around him when they were inviting us to run the ball. But like I told the team, you're still the same team that ripped off 5 straight after your last loss. Everything still is in front of you. That's what we've got to focus on, and we all on the way home need to take a long, hard look, the head coach, assistants, players, as to how we can prepare ourselves better for Temple.
How close was Ed to playing?
He had been cleared, but still, there's a comfort level and to be able to play, and was going through some of the pre-games, and and the last thing you want to do is put one of your student athletes, your players out there in a position where they can re-injure themselves. And we'll continue to monitor them day to day, and we knew it was going to be a touch and go situation going into the game.
He mentioned the run defense, or their ability. I think at one point you were not only without Ed, you lost Gerard. Emil was out. By the end of the game, it looked like you were just working with patchwork at that point.
Yeah, that's football. I'm not gonna sit here and ifs and buts, and all that kind of stuff. You got to play with who you have, and you don't make excuses. You go win the game regardless.
Major, on defense, how did you? The last few weeks, especially, it looked like the defense had turned the corner, started doing. Did you see some of the things that were there earlier in the year? Maybe the Tech game, some of the missed tackles, or did you feel like they went back to some of the things that maybe had been corrected? the last few?
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I saw some great tackling. There was times where I didn't. You know, there was times where I saw DBs in position to make plays, and then you know, there's a time where they get behind us. You know, and that's you know, those are the things that you have to eliminate in terms of just people getting behind you. You know, and when you're deep, you're deep. And you know, right when the tide was turning, you know, we give up a big play, and you know, we were fighting our way back into it. But you know, I don't want to talk about the game right now until I go back and watch it. You know, and be able to watch it and give a fair assessment of it. But obviously, we didn't play well enough on any of the phases to win the game tonight.
Any word on any of the guys that came out? Is it right now anything serious for?
Not right now. I mean, it's you know, slow to talk about that Courtney last week. Where you just don't know really what's going on until you get them in front of the doctors.
Anything else? Thanks, Major.
Thank you.